another day, and today we're going out on a charter boat which we planned for over a year now. Been wanting to do it, so I've spoken to Kenny at the Oberon Boat Charters, thanks to Ari from Sky. He put me onto him. It's going to be a pretty good day. The weather's not the best, but the boat's a lot bigger than the rib we were out in yesterday. She's a good looking boat. We're all pretty pumped up. We're all a little bit tired because we were filleting fish late last night. But it's another adventure. Big boat, big seas. I think they caught some big halibut off this boat yesterday, so this could be pretty interesting. Oh yeah. Crew today. We've got Dad with us, we've got Billy, so it's a full crew, lots of fishing, probably lots of wind and rain too, but it should be pretty good. First things first is we had to go catch some bait. Now the seas were looking pretty choppy, but I'm glad we were on this boat compared to the rib, as it was a lot more comfortable. First things we started catching was a lot of baby saithe, also known as pilticks in Shetland. We did keep these for bait. Billy also took some home for his pet otter, but we were after mackerel. Eventually we got a few on the boat, and by that point it was cup of tea time and we had a bigger fish in mind. Proper dry land fishing first with a rod. Well, there we have it. We're back at Muckle Flugga. A bit different to yesterday. Misty, foggy, big seas, but I love it. We're just having a look because this is a spot that we dived yesterday, and if it's calm enough we'll be able to get back in at some point today. Dad's looking at that and like, I have to reel that back up off the seabed. So that's Flugga in the background. So now we're going to do some deeper fishing and see what we find. And that's it. Make sure you hold that when it goes down. It's not long before Dad gets the first bite of the day, and that dreaded reel up from the seabed begins. But with that, he gets the first fish on board, a nice sized cod, and my dad's first ever Shetland cod, so he's pretty chuffed. And then, not long after, Dave hooks up and he starts the big reel. Now the reason it's ended up to be such a hard reel up is we're using pretty heavy weights, and it's just because we're drifting so quickly with the wind and the weather. It's pushing us off the marks we want to fish pretty quickly. But eventually Dave manages to beat the weight and get this lovely sized cod up to the surface. And not long after, Jake manages to hook into something. Now he didn't know what it was because it was acting completely different. Eventually he got it up Kenny brought it over and it was a lovely little ling. Jake's first ever Shetland ling. Now, I've been fishing for a long time whilst everybody else was fishing, and I wasn't getting anything until I thought I was onto a monster, but unfortunately it was a smaller cod, foul hooks down the belly, but still good enough to take home for the table. After fishing for a few hours, we needed to fill our bellies because we wanted to go and explore some new spots. Now this time it was for spearfishing, so I have a bit of a chinwag with Kenny and we come up with a plan to go find some new spots. Well, the tide is slacking off, so we're going to go in and do a bit of spearfishing. Let's see if we get fish this way. Hopefully, because I've caught nothing on the rod and line, apart from a tiny little cod. With the weather not improving, we had to punch through some pretty gnarly winds and weather just to get to some sheltered bays. But speaking to Kenny, there were some nice structures and some nice reefs that we wanted to go have a look at, or that Kenny has never been, especially with divers or spearfishermen, to go and have a look at. So we made a plan and we went for it.
So while these boys get ready to dive, I don't. Bit of an ear issue, sinus has been playing up for a bit, so I'm going to be booty for them for the afternoon.
Why we catch all the fish? Can't catch them on the rod and line, so I need another attempt.
Go rugby suit. Bendy body over the side.
Getting in the water with your bunch of mates is a pretty amazing feeling, but getting in the water with your dad is truly amazing, and I very rarely get to dive with Dad, but when I do, it's pretty special. He always gives it the I've not done it for a while, or my sinuses might not work, but yet he then just disappears to 14 meters and starts hunting, and that basically just means I have to get going as well. It's truly amazing to be in the water with your family like this. But time to get hunting and see what's down here. This is the best viz I have ever seen in Shetland. Kenny dropped us off in 20 to 25 meters of water, and I could see silhouettes of all the rocks and everything on the bottom. So that was pretty amazing. Eventually I make my way to the reef structure though, and I start getting stuck into the kelp and to see if I can see anything moving, and I can see a fair distance here and I see no fish in any area, but I give it a long good look to see if anything might come out just to me disturbing the seabed or making some noises, but unfortunately on this dive, no luck. Eventually I start bumping into fish, and I actually start bumping into fish mid-water as if they are hunting and feeding, and I've never seen pollock like this. They're usually in the kelp, scared and well, never mid-water. But I can't help myself but have a shot from the surface, resulting in obviously no fish. As I make my way round the coast a bit more, I start to bump into a little bit more structure, and I get tucked into the kelp again, and I start to see some more fish moving about. Now, there's a fair few fish here, and I can be picky. I'm after bigger fish. I want to have a go, and I love the waiting game. But I punch the time card, and I get this nice sized pollock, for the first fish of the day on the spear, and I want to show Kenny that it can be done and that you don't need a rod and line.
Unreal.
Is it good fishing? Oh, that's a nice polyp. Okay. Yeah.
I told you there's fish there somewhere.
That's a good polyp.
I see a hole like that size of a big water.
You will get bigger polyp going towards the corner and round the corner, but I don't know how strong the tide is.
Yeah, I mean, I would dive in it.
Alright, well, work your way out that way then, I'll keep an eye.
With Kenny taunting me with some bigger fish, I head round to the area that he told me to go, and straight away there were some insane structures. There's pinnacles coming from just the surface all the way down to 20 meters, and I could not help but do a nice big breathe up and head down there for a look. Little did I know that after I shot the last fish, I forgot to reload my spear gun. So when I got down there and this fish decided to come in and say hi, but not just say hi, try and nibble the end of my spear, when I pulled the trigger it didn't work very well. I thought it was a safety, so I played with the safety, and then I realised I hadn't even loaded it. So I decided to load it down on the seabed. And obviously because I had then moved the safety, I tried to pull the trigger and the safety was on. So I pulled the safety off, but because I pulled the trigger beforehand, the gun just went off and I was not on the fish. I will say, I always have my safety off and I treat the gun as always loaded. I find it safer this way instead of dealing with safeties that can fall on and off without you knowing. But the moral of the story is I would probably load your spear gun before you dive. It doesn't seem to work very well on the bottom. Yep. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Got to the bottom of like 14 meters and my gun wasn't loaded. So it's still there, so I just loaded it up whilst I was down there. And then the safety I must have pushed and bang, missed. Amateur. So Kenny took us to a new location, slightly out of the tide, and it was just as amazing. This time we were starting to bump into a lot more fish though, and I had to redeem myself after that pretty embarrassing not loading your spear gun up. So I used my other spear gun and I just went for it. Started doing some long waits and finding some nice fish. With the boat being slightly too far away, for a quick swim I decided just to dispatch the fish here and load it back up on my gun and just keep it on my shooting line basically. There's no seals or sharks necessarily here, so I can get away with this. It does mean trying to hunt for some more fish will be a little bit more difficult, but keen to give it a go. with 2 nice pollock down already, I started making my way back to the boat. But I couldn't help myself but do one last dive before getting there, so I loaded back up and I started to do a nice big long breather. This is slightly deeper. I'm in about 16-17 meters of water again, and I'm just descending down to the bottom. I'm going to tuck myself in to the kelp and have a good old wait and see what comes out. Straight away I can start to see some fish moving in the distance, and once those fish start moving closer I can see bigger fish in that distance. So I pick the one I want to come in and I start waiting, but these fish definitely push me to my limits, and I then have to juggle 2 fish on top of my gun to have a clear sight to try and shoot this fish. Now, unfortunately, it's all about taking your time and just trying to be as relaxed as possible. Not easy when you're running out of air, but in order to keep going, you have to stay relaxed, and eventually I managed to get within just close enough range to get a shot at this fish. And you can see it's a bit bigger and it takes me for a little bit of a ride, but I managed to loosen my reel off and head to surface as I was running out of air and I needed to basically get to surface. Thankfully though, the pollock didn't wrap himself up too much and I can pull him up gently on the shooting line, because I'm not sure how well this spear went through, but I'm just going to take my time and bring him up to the surface. With time getting on, it was time to get out the water, unfortunately. Although I could dive and shoot fish all day and just explore more coastline than I've never been before, we had to get out and start making our way back. But what a truly special time diving with my dad and my friends. It was just insane. Well, we've made it back in. It was about an hour and a half steam back in. Kind of glad because we got a lot of fish to prep. It's been a pretty amazing day. There's a lot of happy faces again. Tired happy faces. Fish to sort now. We'll get stuck into that.
Come on. Off 2 of them, look. Ready. It's going to be a fight. So quick.
Well, there you have it. That's been another trip up to Shetland. To say it's not been eventful would be stupid. It's been very eventful. We've done a whole load of stuff we've always wanted to do. We've went out in some pretty hairy weather, but we got the missions, we got the fish, we've had an absolute ball. I'm off on more adventures. Jake's got some parenting to do now.
Back to reality. We've literally done everything we set out to do. So we've been to Flugga twice, once in the Rib and once on the Charter. So absolutely stonking.
Yeah,
loves it.
I think you'll be back again.
100%. We're booking in for next
Another
year.
few years, and we've just stopped up here as there's some minke whales in the background. But I hope you've enjoyed all these antics between me and Jake. Don't forget to check Jake out at Westcapades and follow me for more silly adventures as well. Thanks for watching, and again, there's plenty more to come.